Ivan Pavlov was a Russian scientist who is best known for his work with dogs. He was born in Russia in 1849. From a young age, Pavlov loved to learn about science and animals. He studied many subjects, but he became most interested in psychology and the way animals learn. Pavlov went to a university to study science. At first, he wanted to become a priest, but later he decided that he wanted to study science instead. He worked hard in school and learned about different types of science. After finishing his studies, he became a professor. He worked in many different laboratories and spent many years doing experiments. One of Pavlov's most famous experiments involved dogs. He wanted to understand how animals learned. To do this, he started to study how dogs reacted when they saw food. He noticed that when a dog saw food, it would start to salivate or produce saliva because it was hungry. This is a natural reaction. Pavlov decided to study this reaction more carefully. In his experiment, Pavlov used a bell. He would ring the bell just before he gave the dogs food. The dogs would hear the bell and start to salivate. After a while, the dogs began to salivate even when they heard the bell, but there was no food. This was very interesting. Pavlov discovered that the dogs had learned to connect the sound of the bell with food. In other words, they learned to associate the bell with getting food. Pavlov called this process classical conditioning. He showed that animals can learn to react to things in their environment based on their past experiences. In this case, the dogs learned to salivate when they heard the bell because they expected food. This was an important discovery in psychology and helped scientists understand more about how learning works. Pavlov did many other experiments with animals. He studied how dogs could learn different behaviors and how their brains responded to different situations. His work helped scientists understand how behavior can change over time and how animals learn from their experiences. Pavlov's research was important because it showed that animals can learn from their environment and from what happens to them. It also helped scientists understand more about how people learn and how behavior can change in humans too. Many psychologists still use Pavlov's ideas in their studies today. In addition to his work with dogs, Pavlov also studied the nervous system. He looked at how the brain controls different parts of the body, like muscles and organs. He believed that the brain was very important in controlling behavior. His research helped to improve the understanding of how the nervous system works. Pavlov's work did not only help scientists understand animals. It also helped improve the way we think about learning and behavior in humans. Many psychologists used his ideas to help people understand how they learn and why they react to different situations. Pavlov's work is still important today and is used in many areas of psychology, education, and medicine. Pavlov was a very careful and methodical scientist. He was dedicated to understanding how animals and people learn. He spent many years working in his laboratory and did many experiments. He was not only interested in finding answers but also in asking new questions. His work changed the way people think about behavior and learning. Ivan Pavlov received many awards for his work. In 1904, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. This was one of the highest honors a scientist could receive. The Nobel Prize recognized his important work on the nervous system, and it helped to show the world how important his discoveries were. Even though Pavlov became very famous for his work, he never stopped being curious. He continued to ask questions and conduct experiments. He believed that there was always more to learn, and he worked hard to find new answers. His passion for science and learning inspired many other scientists to follow in his footsteps. Pavlov's work is still studied and remembered today. He helped people understand that learning is not just about thinking, but also about how the body and brain respond to different experiences. His experiments with dogs showed that animals can learn through simple associations. This idea helped to shape many of the ideas in psychology that we use today. His ideas about classical conditioning also helped to improve treatments for people who had problems with behavior. For example, psychologists used classical conditioning to help people stop bad habits like smoking or overeating. They used Pavlov's ideas to teach people to replace bad behaviors with better ones. Pavlov's work has also influenced education. Teachers can use his ideas to help students learn. For example, when a teacher rewards a student for doing well in class, the student may start to feel good about learning and try harder next time. This is similar to what Pavlov showed in his experiments with dogs. When the dogs learned to associate the bell with food, they changed their behavior. Teachers use similar techniques to help students learn and behave better. Pavlov passed away in 1936, but his work continues to be very important. His research helped to change the way scientists understand learning and behavior. He showed that behavior can be influenced by what happens in the environment, and that animals and people can learn from their experiences. His discoveries are still used in many different fields today, from psychology to medicine to education. In the years since Pavlov's death, many other scientists have built on his ideas. They have continued to study how animals and people learn and behave. Thanks to Pavlov's work, we now know much more about how our brains work and how we can improve learning. He left a lasting impact on science, and his discoveries are still helping people today. Pavlov's story shows how important it is to be curious and to keep asking questions. His dedication to science and his belief that there is always more to learn helped him make important discoveries. Even though he worked with animals, his ideas have helped people all over the world. Today, we can still see the impact of his work in psychology, education, and many other areas. In the end, Ivan Pavlov was not only a great scientist, but also a person who helped people understand more about the world around them. His experiments with dogs changed the way we think about learning, and his work continues to inspire scientists and students all over the world. Even though Pavlov is no longer here, his discoveries live on, helping us understand more about how we learn and behave.